Another Gopher to the transfer portal for the football team, but maybe it's not a bad thing.
Hey,
You are Locked On Golden Gophers.
No matter what we're going to do here, we're just going to keep rowing.
Your daily podcast on the Minnesota Golden Gophers.
However it turns out, we're just going to keep rowing.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
We're just going to keep rowing, and keep rowing.
Welcome into the Locked On Golden Gophers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name's Kane Rob, host of the podcast, former collegiate football video coordinator and recruiting assistant, here to talk Golden Gophers with you each and every day of the week, Monday through Friday. Now, this is the show where we always continue to row through the rain, through the snow, through the shine, and all of that. We are always rowing with this Gophers football squad, and today we have a departure on the way, another one to add to the list. That's 14 total, but it might not be a fully bad thing. And we're going to talk about why here at Locked On Golden Gophers. So be sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss anything over on YouTube when it comes to the latest Gophers content. And you're going to want to be sure to leave a 5-star review wherever you get the show on the podcast. Whether that be Spotify, iTunes, Apple Pods, Stitcher, you name it, you'll find us there, and leave a 5-star review so others can find the podcast as well. But wait no further, because Trill Carter has officially entered the transfer portal, and that one is catching a lot of Gophers fans by surprise. In fact, a lot of these departures have caught many by surprise. Flip Dixon, Beanie Bishop, Donald Willis, Flip Dixon, Braylon Oliver, and now Trill Carter. A lot of these guys had the opportunity to play, had a lot of playing time. So why are they hitting the portal now? That's what I'm going to go into a little bit further. But before there's panic, before the rage ensues for some of you fans out there, I don't have that rage right now. I'm more inquisitive, more curious. Why is this happening? And while some people might be in panic mode, I'm analyzing the situation. And some are out there like, oh, we've had so many transfers. We haven't had a crazy amount of transfers. We actually haven't even had the most in the conference. We're the third most in the conference right now, but not by a wide margin. So if you're looking across the conference itself, Indiana has 22 transfers out. Michigan has 9 transfers out. Wisconsin, 10 transfers out. Maryland, 18 transfers out. Nebraska, 10 transfers out. Michigan State, 11 transfers out. Iowa, 13 transfers out. Ohio State, 6. Illinois, 6. Purdue, 11. Penn State 7, Rutgers 9, and Northwestern 8, and Minnesota is at 14. So third most in the conference, only one ahead of Iowa, only a handful ahead of a lot of the schools out there. In fact, there are only 4 Big Ten programs with less than 9 transfers out, and 8 teams have 10 or more transfers out. So while the Gophers have a few more, it really isn't by a wide margin. So it isn't a cause for panic. Now, before we dive deep into what this could all mean, let's hear from Coach Fleck in his first presser with the spring on quick thoughts about the transfer portal, because I think this is 100% truth and 100% something fans need to consider with this new transfer landscape.
Leaving, it used to be, the last thing I'll say, because this will make sense. It used to be if a kid left the program, all of you would ask me, like, what happened? What's wrong? What's wrong with the program? There's something going on inside there, right? Now, I think that's very different. Now it's just second nature. The guy leaves. We all want guys to have better opportunities. We want them to be able to go to the NFL. If a guy's not playing, he has the option to leave. If he doesn't fit, he doesn't stay in a place where he doesn't fit for 3-4 years and waste that time and then become combative with coaches and peers, and you don't have time for that. And this allows people to get to where you fit. So it may be a little bit more, even more now of a selection process than it was just a recruiting process. But I think you have to keep adapting, and that's the exciting part about it, though. But to say that, I'm never going to look at it from the eyes of how we look at a football program. I mean, it's still a life program and always will be.
All right, so we've heard it from Coach Fleck. Before it was like, what's going wrong with the program if all these people are transferring? That's not where we're at anymore, because if it's not the right fit anymore, if the opportunities aren't there anymore, who knows? Maybe a player wants to be closer to home. There are so many different scenarios now in which a player might use that one-time transfer opportunity. But another thing people aren't discussing is, what if the opportunity that we were expecting isn't actually going to be present. And so that's what I want to bring up, because my guy over at Fox 9, Jeff Wald, love the dude. We sit next to each other in the press box for the Gopher games last season. So hopefully that setup is the same, but regardless, he had talked about how Carter's departure surely isn't about playing time. He was in line to be a third-year starter on the defensive line and have a big impact, literally and figuratively, on the defensive line. Now, knowing he's been a starter the last 2 years, knowing he's been a wide majority of the snaps and everything the last 2 years, it's easy to jump to that conclusion, but I'm not 100% sure I agree. I don't know if he was going to be locked and loaded in that starting position, because you know what? There's a lot of new factors on the table with this Gophers team. There's a new defensive line coach, which means, you know what you've done in the past doesn't necessarily mean you have a lock towards the future. It doesn't mean that you're going to be the number one interior defensive lineman from the jump because of history, because of the past, because that didn't work last year. The Gophers pass rush, both interior and exterior, edge rushers and interior defensive linemen, struggled. And if you listen to the show, if you followed Gophers Guru, you know that interior pass rush is very important for having success in creating problems for the quarterback. So if we haven't been able to create interior pass rush for the past 2 years now, and Trill was the starter in that space, it's not putting all the blame on him. That is not what I'm trying to say at all. But what I'm saying is, if some of these young guys that have been building within the program, that have the size, have the measurables, have the potential to be that type of player, but just haven't had it click yet, and you bring in a new defensive line coach who has worked with NFL caliber pass rushers at Oregon in his time there with their pass rush academy that happens out in Oregon, where he's worked with guys like Kayvon Thibodeau, like Eric Armstead out there, and so many more. And he finds a way to channel it into some of these younger guys, and it just clicks. Because sometimes one way of coaching, one style of coaching doesn't automatically click or make sense for one player, but when you get a new coach in there, you get a new opportunity, you get a new way of approaching a similar topic, and that does the trick. That gets it to trigger. That is what pushes it forward. That can bring you to a whole new stratosphere and whole new level for some of these younger guys. So what if these younger guys are pushing and challenging and creating more problems already from the jump? And you got to look at the timing of the transfer as well. There has been a lot of opportunity for Trill Carter to hit the portal prior to this. He could have went right after the bowl game last year. He could have went in that first transfer window. He didn't. He stuck it out. And through the weightlifting program, through all of this early stuff, Trill is stuck around. And then the first week of practices hits. Maybe there are names standing out. Maybe there are people stepping up. Maybe the youth movement is time now. And maybe that was becoming present. And maybe that's why he hit the portal. Now, I don't know that for sure, but there are so many reasons that you can analyze the situation and say, you know what? It might not be a bad thing. It might be that this Gophers youth is ready to make the leap. So I know, I get it. Now, Kane, how could Trill Carter, a 2-year full-time starter, an all Big Ten honorable mention, leaving the program be positive? Now, I'm not saying that it absolutely will be, but what I'm saying is, if he isn't set for the same amount of opportunity, the same amount of starts, the same amount of snaps, maybe he wants to be able to have that, to be the guy, to be the face, the focal point. And maybe that wasn't presented. So maybe that is why he took this chance to hit the portal. So I'm thankful for everything Trill Carter has brought to this program. He has been very fun to watch. He has made some great contributions to this team and some of the best defensive units in the country over the past 2 years. But now it is time for next man up. Now it is time for guys like Devin Eastern, Kyler Baugh, Darnell Jeffries. Those guys can step into big starting opportunities. We'll have to see who is really making a claim and a name for themselves in these early spring practices. We're going to see next Tuesday is the first look at maybe who is in there pushing for more, looking special, bringing potential. So don't freak out. Don't fret. Just relax. Take a moment, because it could be a good thing. And those are only 3 names that come to the top of my mind for the interior defensive line. But you've also got more youth in Jacob Schuster, Luther McCoy, Martin Owusu, true freshman who is an early enrollee. There's a lot of potential on this team. There's a lot of guys that bring presence and bring size and stability and athleticism that maybe we haven't seen from that interior defensive line that are ready to take the leap. A youth movement is not a bad thing. So speaking of youth movements, we've got a brand new commit joining the Gophers and ready to row. And it is an exciting one that you're not going to want to miss out on. And we're going to talk about who it is and what they bring to the team coming up next. First, a word from our friends over at FanDuel.com. You need to take advantage of a no sweat first bet over at FanDuel by going to FanDuel.com/lockedon, and they're going to have you covered with a no sweat first bet. And what that means is if you lose that first bet, you're still going to have an opportunity at up to $1,000 back in bonus bets. And why wouldn't you want to take a shot at it? And you can even start betting on some of those early opening games, including the Gophers hosting the Nebraska Cormorant Huskers in that first week of the season. The Gophers are favored by 8 points right now, and that line is probably bound to change by the time we actually get to that August date. So if you feel really good about it right now, now is the time to lock it in. And you can do that over at FanDuel.com. Use FanDuel.com/lockedon to take advantage of a no sweat first bet. That's what we got to do over here at FanDuel.com, which is officially the official sports book of Locked On. Make every moment more with FanDuel. All right, Gophers fans, thank you so much for listening to Locked On Golden Gophers and making us your first listen when it comes to Gophers daily sports. Now, like I said, we have a new commit, a new Gopher joining the squad in the class of 2024, and that is none other than Corey Smith, a wide receiver over from Indiana. And he is not only a new commit for the class of 2024 that plays wide receiver, but he's the 83rd wide receiver ranked in the class right now, according to 247 Sports, and the 10th player in the state of Indiana. He was offered by other schools, some within the Big Ten, including Illinois, but also other major programs like West Virginia, Liberty, and a handful of others as well. As a junior, the wide receiver, he had 40 receptions with 811 yards and 6 touchdowns. But what I saw when I look at his huddle tape, when I watched the quick highlights, and again, you can put together some nice highlights from huddle and in high school. Everybody can put together their best clips and their best handful of clips, but it's what you can take away from those clips. And so the things that stood out to me right away is that he's got a good release from the line of scrimmage. He's got good speed right away from the line of scrimmage, but he's got a really good burst, a short burst. He can get out of a break really quick. And that was something that was really intriguing and you'll like to see develop in his senior year as well. But he's also got really solid hands, which was very present in those clips. And he seems to have a good understanding of finding space within a zone defense, which you can't always teach. It's more of a natural ability at times. So the understanding seemed really present within that huddle film. And I am excited to see how he continues to develop in his senior year before he even gets to the Gophers program. But adding another wide receiver, the first wide receiver to this class, is helping the Gophers continue to have depth in that room. If you look at the room as a whole, there's a ton of talent in that bad boy. I'm talking, you've got Chris Harmon-Bell, but you know this will be his last year of eligibility. You've got Daniel Jackson, who continues to grow and be more of a focal point within the offense. But maybe next season could be his last season of eligibility. So you need to continue that youth movement below those type of guys. You've got the transfers coming in, Corey Crooms, but again, 1 year of eligibility. And then you've got Elijah Spencer, who looked like he was flashing in some of those early practices with some of the highlights they're putting out there on the Gophers Twitter channel. So, you know, Elijah Spencer is very intriguing, and he's a guy who could be here. I think he has 2 years of eligibility left. Could be wrong there. Could be even 3. I'd have to double check on that one, but you've got a lot of heavy hitters right there at the top that maybe only have a handful of seasons left. But then you've got guys like Christian Hoskins, who's got 4 years left. You've got all 3 true freshmen in this year's upcoming class that in 2023 that could redshirt and still have 4 years of eligibility left, or maybe they play and they have 3 years of eligibility left. Either way, there's a lot of youth and talent in that wide receiver room, and how Minnesota passes this season, how they increase the opportunity in the air game is going to be pertinent to continue this trend of wide receivers not only wanting to come to Minnesota, but the top talents starting to consider Minnesota, seeing more of an evolution in the passing game and a quarterback at the helm in Ethan Kaliak-Manis who can show, look, we can do some special things out here. We saw it in that Wisconsin game. We saw it in blips and flashes throughout the season last year. And now you're going to have that full season, that full opportunity to show and shine the quarterback, the passing game, and the evolution of Gophers football. And that doesn't mean we're getting away from the run, but maybe we're including those running backs in different ways we haven't, like getting them passing opportunities. Well, Ibrahim didn't get a lot of shine or a lot of opportunity in the passing game, but then you see him prepping for the NFL and showing he has the ability to catch the ball in these individual drills that he took place in the combine and at his pro day. So maybe we work that in a little bit more. Maybe we get the screen game going. Maybe we get guys like Sean Tyler, who showed at the MAC level that he can be a receiving threat. Maybe you get Darius Taylor, Zach Evans, these guys, Bryce Williams, opportunities in the passing game to help take this offense to the next level and help these younger prospects of the class of 24, 25 and beyond to be like, yo, this Gophers offense, they've got something cooking. They're making it work, and this program seems to be continuing to build and trend in the right way. So definitely exciting. That makes it officially 6 commits with Corey Smith joining the bunch in 2024. 2 linebackers, 1 running back, 1 wide receiver, 1 quarterback, and 1 athlete who is likely to play the defensive back position. Now, overall, 247 has Minnesota rated at the 29th class in the 2024 year, 29th in the country right now, and 6th in the Big Ten. Now, On3, which is another recruiting platform, has them a little less high, a little bit lower, 37th overall and 8th in the Big Ten. But recruiting is just getting started when it comes to the class of 2024. And there will be a lot of movement and a lot of changes prior to signing day in December and second opportunity window in February. So sit back. Don't get too worried about it either way, ups or downs, because there's a lot of time in the recruiting, but it looks like Minnesota is on the right trend when it comes to building those skill players and continuing to bring them here and ready to row. So that is the Gophers football talk we have for today, but we're not done because the number 1 program in the country when it comes to hockey is the Minnesota Golden Gophers. They won their first game and they are 1 game away from the Frozen Four. Who's their opponent and what is it going to take to get back? That's how we're finishing this bad boy out. And you know what? It's going to be a battle. Before we dive into some Gophers hockey, we got to talk about our friends over at Built.com. And at Built.com, you can use promo code LOCKEDON15 for 15% off your order or your, I guess it would be your order at Built.com. Get 15% off with promo code LOCKEDON15, 100% wrapped in real chocolate. That goodness, that protein power-packed bar. Look, the flavors that they have over there, they've got flavors galore, and I cannot stress that enough. But now is your opportunity as well to win a year's supply of Built Bars. All you have to do is go to BuiltMarchMadness.com to vote for your favorite bar. That's all you have to do. You just vote for your favorite bar and you enter your email, and you could be the lucky one winner to be selected for a 12-month subscription to Built and get them delivered to your door every month. And even if you don't end up a winner in that number 1 spot, well, guess what? There are other 50 others that will be chosen for a free box of Built Bars as well. Again, go to BuiltMarchMadness.com to vote for your favorites. That's all it takes. And why wouldn't you take a shot? All right, Gophers fans, we're wrapping this one up with a little bit of hockey talk because the Gophers, pride on ice, the number 1 country in the nation, ended up coming up with a huge victory against Canisius in the first round of the NCAA tournament. And you know what? Through that first period, there were a lot of people that were holding their breath. They were freaking out a little bit. They were getting flashbacks and reminders of the Holy Cross matchup back in 2006, 2007. Meanwhile, your boy was calm. He was chill. Now, it could help that I was only like 12 years old back then when the Holy Cross, Holy Nightmare happened back then. But Alas, this Gophers team was too talented to go down like that, and they absolutely blew it up in the late second and especially in the third period. Now, Canisius put up a fight, and I could be saying their name wrong. I heard it so many times on the broadcast last night, but it's just, sorry, slipping the mind. Anyways, they put up a fight, especially in that first period. The Gophers were making some dumb penalties and some penalties that just seemed like they were a little bit of a tic-tac calls, but regardless, they were a little off their game, getting a little too cute, and then the confidence just seemed to not fully be there. And then all of a sudden, they came alive. The Canisius went up by 2. It was 2-1. They were up by 1 goal. The Gophers tied up, and then they quickly get a third goal in there. Connor Kurth lights it up with a nice one, a nice assist coming as well. And all of a sudden, the Gophers were not looking back. From that moment on, they quickly made it a 4-2, and then they had 6 goals in the third period, finishing 9-2 against the first round opponent and absolutely obliterating that matchup. Now, that is what you should do against a lower and an inferior opponent in the hockey tournament, but the next round is not going to be so easy. In fact, they move to the quarterfinals and take on an intra-state rival. Now, it isn't Mankato, which could be seen as a good thing for the Gophers, who have been sent home by Mankato in the last 2 NCAA tournaments, but this year they take on the team that beat Mankato, St. Cloud State, another intra-state rivalry. The Gophers have played St. Cloud State twice this year. They won one and they lost one on the road at St. Cloud. They lost 3-0, and it wasn't particularly pretty. But then they come back home and they win 2-1, and I believe that game was in overtime. So St. Cloud put up a fight. They match up well against this Gophers team, and they have a little bit more experience, a little bit more veteran presence as opposed to this younger Gophers team. Now, this Gophers team is one of the highest scoring teams in the nation. They can score in a hurry, especially that power line, that typical first line for the Gophers in Logan Cooley, Jimmy Snuggerud, and Matthew Nyes. But when those guys aren't going, and it took them a little bit to get going in this first round matchup, it's always a question of where is the scoring coming from. Now, if you didn't listen to the show where we did our hockey round table with Dylan Lauk, Sam Ekstrom, and Alex Micheletti, definitely go check that one out because we covered the entire tournament and predictions throughout the way. But what was said there was who could be the most important player for the Gophers. One player that was brought up was Bryce Brodzinski, who had a hat trick in the first game. And we talked about how getting his scoring going in a hurry away from that top line is going to be pertinent for the Gophers to continue to find success. So look for Brodsy to be an important player throughout the time. I believe another player that was brought up was Aaron Huglin, who also had a major goal and almost had a second one in that one as well. So when I brought these minds, these experts from Gophers hockey over, they know what they're talking about and they hit it on the head. Justin Close is going to be a big one in this next matchup because you're going to have to stop this St. Cloud team from getting hot. We also talked about some sleeper players coming up. So go back, check out some of those because one of those sleeper players absolutely made a play that the Gophers needed and it kind of helped spark that run going for the Gophers in that round 1 matchup. Check out that episode. It is not that far away, so you need to go rewatch that, and it covers the entire tournament. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the round 2 matchup. So the Gophers, they absolutely need to. Number one thing they need to do is play with confidence from the jump because they can't get cute. They can't be hesitant. They have to play like they know they are that number 1 team that they've showed to be. And you saw it click after that goal that gave them a 3-2 lead. As soon as that goal went in, you saw something different. You saw a spark. You saw drive from the Gophers hockey team. And they didn't look back from there. From there, it was pure domination, and you saw the actual number 1 team in the country. But everything prior to that, it looked like they could have been the 4 seed in this one. They could have been the seed that was trying to keep up with the big dogs. And that seems to happen when they play more veteran teams. Sometimes they get away from who they are and trying to be too fancy or too cute as opposed to playing their style of hockey and putting on a heck of a show. So the Gophers need to know who they are and be that team from the jump. You can't play the style that St. Cloud State wants to play. You have to play Gophers hockey. And when in doubt, let your players shine. Let them show out. Get the puck into Matthew Nyes in his sweet spots. Let Jimmy fire away as needed. Let Logan Cooley skate between and through every single defender like he is so good at doing to help set up opportunities for others. But most of all, play your game. Don't try to get too fancy. Don't try to get too cute. Don't play me hockey, but play we hockey. I think as soon as the Gophers do that and they continue to play with high energy, play solid on the defensive end, and not make the simple mistakes, the simple turnovers, and the simple, stupid, or dumbfounded penalties, when they just play the way they know how to, the way they can play best, and just play fundamentally sound, this Gophers team can absolutely beat and dismantle any team in the entire nation. The only team that can keep up with a team like this is the Michigan Wolverines. And even then, if the Gophers are on their game, I will take the Gophers each time. So go into this one, beat St. Cloud State in Fargo, get ready to head to Tampa and go to back-to-back Frozen Fours. But the job is not done there because you're looking for a national title. The first one since I believe 2003 for the Gophers. We've got to break the streak, and this is the team to do it. They have the talent, they have the upside, they have the veteran leadership. Now is the time to put it all together, have the confidence, and move forward to the Frozen Four and beyond. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Golden Gophers. Be sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss any of the shows moving forward. If we get to the Frozen Four, we'll definitely have some more hockey talk. Otherwise, we're going to keep you posted with spring football. I will be at the spring practices, so you do not want to miss the notes that we have there. We'll have others that come on the show and join as well, so be sure to hit subscribe. Let me know what your thoughts are on the departure of Trill Carter. Were you worried? Did this help calm you down a little bit? Or who are you looking forward to seeing as the next man up to step up for the Golden Gophers football team? That's going to do it for us. I will see you tomorrow. Actually, no, I won't. It's the weekend. I'll see you on Monday. Row the boat. Sky Ma. Go Gophers.